Okay, so in this video I will do some comparison between running KOReader on an e-reader or the Pocketbook Reader app on an e-reader. The difference and what you can do with each of the apps and so on. So here, for example, we have an Onyx Books Palma that runs Android. It has an e-ink display, of course, because it's an e-reader. So if I go to the home screen, we have different apps that I have installed on this e-reader. So down here, for example, we have KOReader, I have Swedish BookBeat book streaming service and Storytel streaming service, and here we have Pocketbook Reader app. So the difference between KOReader and KOReader is, first off, that you can only run the Pocketbook Reader app on an Android-based e-reader, or on an Android phone, Android tablet, or an iPhone that runs iOS, or an iPad that runs iOS. So you can run the Pocketbook app on all those devices, but you can't run Pocketbook Reader app on a Kobo. So if you have a Kobo e-reader, you can't run Pocketbook Reader, but if you have a Pocketbook e-reader, you can of course run the Pocketbook software on that too. But if you have a Kobo or a Kindle, you can't. But you can run KOReader on a Kobo. So if we open up this, here we have the Kobo Libra H2O that runs KOReader. And as you see here, it can sync the position with the other devices that I have that runs KOReader. So now it has synced the reading progress where I left off on the Onyx Books Palma when running KOReader. So now we are on the same page on both devices. So that's a real benefit with KOReader, that you can sync the reading progress between all your devices. But unfortunately, you can't run KOReader on an iPhone or an iPad. So if you are a mobile reader that reads on a mobile phone, and at home maybe you read on an e-reader, you can't do that if you have an iPhone, because an iPhone can't run KOReader, but it can run Pocketbook Reader. So we can start Pocketbook Reader here and have everything synced between the Onyx Books Palma. So if I now open the Pocketbook Reader app on my Onyx Books Palma again, like this, now we have everything synced between these two devices. And a huge benefit with the Pocketbook Reader app is that it syncs even all the books using the Pocketbook Cloud. So it syncs books, notes, highlights, and reading progress between all your devices, except for Kobo devices, as I said, because you can't run Pocketbook Reader on those. But if you have a larger reader like this, the Bigme B751C, that device runs Android and has an e-ink display and is a real e-reader. So this device can actually run both KOReader and Pocketbook Reader. So if I now go up here to show you that you can sync the reading progress, we can do a sync manually here by pulling the progress. Now we have the same on those devices, that device, that device, and that device, when it comes to KOReader reading in the same book. KOReader can't sync books, it can't sync highlights and notes easily. It can only sync the reading progress, nothing else. So if you want to sync books, highlights and notes too very easily, then use the Pocketbook Reader app. And if you want to read on an iPhone when out and about, when you're not at home, then you should use Pocketbook Reader app, because you can sync that to an e-reader at home. But if you have a Kobo at home, then I recommend running KOReader instead, because you can sync between all your devices quite easily and have all the KOReader features that I have showed in different videos on my channel. But another difference between KOReader and Pocketbook Reader is of course the look of it. So if we go out here to the home screen on this device, we can open up the Pocketbook Reader app like so, hopefully, like so. Here you see that it has a book open and it's a Swedish book, but as you see here, you have less information. You see what the book is called, you see which page you are on, and these, by the way, are real pages, what I know of. And you have the percent you have read, and you have the battery and also the time. If you see on a Kobo that runs KOReader, you see that it has a lot more information down here in the status bar. You can add exactly as much information you want. I have decided to have this, as you see here, quite a lot of different information. As you see, how much it's left of the book, how much time and chapters left in the book, and how much time of the chapter, and so on. You can add exactly as much information you want there. So if you want to have more in the status bar, for example, and even more customizations than in the Pocketbook Reader app, then I must say that KOReader has everything you desire when it comes to customizations. It's awesome when it comes to customizations. So you have everything you want for customizations. You can customization everything in the bottom here too if you want. You have everything you need when it comes to make your reading pleasure better. So you have everything you want when it comes to KOReader. In Pocketbook Reader you have a lot to do also. You have a lot to do. So you can do really much in Pocketbook Reader too. A lot more than most of the other reading apps actually. So you can have very thin margins, as I like, for example, and you can do a lot more. You can see here that you have a lot of different settings to do. You can choose different fonts. You can do a lot of settings there, but you can also do some advanced settings. If you go into settings here, you have a lot of different stuff you can do in colors, paragraphs, page, fonts, keys configuration, areas configurations, display, animation. You can do a lot. So that is a really nice features. You can do a lot with Pocketbook Reader. And in fact, if I will be honest with you, I think Pocketbook Reader has enough customizations for most users. So if it's important that you run on an iPhone, the same books, the same highlights, notes and reading progress, then use Pocketbook Reader. It's easier to install, it's easier to sync between a phone or another e-reader. You can use Pocketbook's own e-readers, but you can also use all Android-based e-readers like the Onyx Books Palma or the Big Me here. These runs Android. Here I have a Pocketbook Reader app open. As you see, you have the same information at the bottom here and so on. And it works the same. You have the same settings on both devices and so on. So you can easily, and by the way, you see, here you have the different margins I can do, as you see here. Very thin margins on the Onyx Books Palma, as you see. Very, very thin. And you can have as thin if you want on the Big Me too, but I have decided to not to have thinner on this because it's a bigger display. But if you run Pocketbook Reader on Android-based devices, you can easily sync them on the iPhone. So let's see how the book looks like on the iPhone. As you see, you have very, very thin margins, as you see here. Very, very thin. And you can do exactly as you want on the iPhone too. You have all the settings that you need on the iPhone too. We can see down here. But you have less things to do actually with the settings on an iPhone or an iPad than you have on an Android-based device, unfortunately. But you have enough a lot more than you have in Apple Books or in the Kindle app, for example. Pocketbook Reader has a lot more settings to do. That's awesome to me. So that is also very good. So actually the huge decision you have to do is, if you have a Kobo device, then you can't run Pocketbook Reader. Then I think you should use KOReader. But if you don't have a Kobo device or a Kindle, then if you have a Pocketbook Reader, for example, I don't have that, or an Android-based e-reader, then I think if you need to sync with iPhones, then use Pocketbook Reader instead of KOReader actually. But if you are like me that have both Kobo-based and Android-based e-readers and doesn't read on the phone, then I use KOReader, because then I can sync between my Kobo devices and my Android-based devices very, very easily. Another thing with the Pocketbook Reader app and KOReader is that you can integrate Calibre in both apps. So if you run Pocketbook Reader on your device, then you can connect your Calibre library with books. Even if you run Pocketbook Reader, you can do the same on that one as you do on KOReader. So if Calibre is important to you, then you can use that with both Pocketbook Reader and KOReader, no difference there. So if you see here on the Onyx Books Palma is my mobile device that I use instead of the iPhone to read, then I can use Pocketbook Reader in the same way. You see it looks quite nice. And if I instead open KOReader, you see it looks like this and have more information at the bottom, but you have the same margins and so on. You can read in the exact same way. So I think the decision to make is if two things really. If you use iPhones, then if you use iPhones to read on, then use Pocketbook Reader, because then you can sync it with an Android-based e-reader or a Pocketbook Reader. So if you don't use an iPhone to read books on, and you read, for example, on an Android phone or an Android-based e-reader and on a Kobo, then use KOReader. But I can highly recommend try out Pocketbook Reader, because Pocketbook Reader has excellent customizations options, excellent synchronization options, and Calibre can be integrated. So I can highly recommend Pocketbook Reader. It's free to install on all devices that supports Pocketbook Reader. So try it out. You can install it on your iPhone, iPad, Android-based e-reader, or a Pocketbook Reader e-reader, of course. Okay, bye.